Peace to everybody. This story is about here's what happens on Scientology's cruise ship, the Freewinds. It sounds pretty intense, and as you can see, here's the Scientology's cruise ship. Now, I used to be with them, and I went as far as I could. Then I got out after a while because they kept saying, oh, that they're not a cult. Well, guess what? They are a cult because I have watched A&E's after Scientology stuff with Leah Remini, who exposed everything what went on in Scientology, that it was a cult. She talked about the beatings and everything that had went on in the Scientology. So if you are in it, please get out while you can, because you know what? These people are not who they think they are. They're evil. They keep you from your families. They don't want you anywhere near anybody. So that's why I got out while I could, because I didn't stay there. I was only there for like a couple of years, and that was it for me. When you hear the phrase Scientology cruise ship, it may conjure images of Tom Cruise playing shuffleboard on the deck while church members sunbathe and sip strawberry daiquiris. That's not exactly what happens aboard the Freewinds. So yeah, you may think that there shuffleboard and everything going on. No, there isn't, because it's a little more than what you think it is. So, and people may think, conjure up the images of Tom Cruise and all that, but no, it's not what you think it is. The Freewinds, a cruise ship belonging to the Church of Scientology, was quarantined this week in the Caribbean with an apparent case of measles. It was allowed to return to Curaçao Harbor, its home port, on Saturday morning. Yeah, so the cruise ship has been quarantined because of all the measles that are running around. The measles are spreading real bad, and it's just horrible. Um, but yeah, and it had no choice but to go back to Curaçao Harbor to so they can get everybody off the ship. This has led to a number of questions, including, wait, why does Scientology have a cruise ship? According to the church, the Freewinds is less a vacation and more of a floating religious retreat center. Some former Scientologists have described it in harsher terms, but more on that later. Yes, so now, why do they have a cruise ship? Well, what do you think? And of course, the Freewinds is a less of a vacation and more of a floating religious retreat center. That's all it is. Because I never been on there, and I don't want to be on there because I mean, you can get lost anywhere on that ship, so it don't matter. Once upon a time, Scientology had a fleet of ships. The church says, which were manned by its sea organization. The ships and crew helped Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard with research and supervised church functions around the world, according to the church. Yeah, well, apparently the church is not what you think it is. It did belong to L. Ron Hubbard, the Freewinds, but he also created the Church of Scientology all over the place, wherever he went, including the Sea organization, and it's really, it's really kind of disturbing, like, but it's not, I don't know. But if you're just thinking about going on this, no, don't do it. Don't go on this cruise ship, whatever you do. Scientologists compare the Sea Org to members of a religious order, like monks and nuns who devote their lives to the faith, often working long hours for no pay and living communally. The Freewinds is entirely staffed by the Sea Org. The church says who dress in spiffy naval uniforms. Yeah, so yeah, they may think they dress in spiffy naval uniforms, but they also have I don't know, from what I saw in videos, that it had one big room somewhere where everybody was gathered in for the events and that. I'm not sure exactly where it's at on the ship, but it's there. But there was another reason for Scientologists' sea-faring ways, say scholars who have studied the church in the late 1960s. Several countries, including the United States, started scrutinizing Hubbard's new movement. He had been kicked out of England in 1968, according to Hugh Urban, author of The Church of Scientology, A History of a New Religion. Yeah, so it was around during the 1960s. It traveled to several countries, and of course, Hubbard's movement, he's been kicked out of England in 1968 for what? I don't know, but I guess it's because of scrutinizing that they got him for, so they decided, well, we're going to kick him out, and that's what they did. Thus, Hubbard's shift to a sea-based organization during these years were clearly in part a response to his inability to operate freely in many nations, Urban writes. And so he was in part of a response is an ability to operate freely. L. Ron Hubbard has traveled all over the place. He used to be in the military. He's a historian, allegedly, and there was other things that he has done. CNN has reached out to the Church of Scientology but has not heard back from its communications department. Well, of course you're not going to hear from them because Scientology is too slick with their questions, with them being questioned. They don't like to be questioned about things that are going on in the church. They don't want to be questioned about the beatings. They don't want to be questioned about the abuse. They don't want to be questioned about nothing that's going on because they know they're a cult, and it's just, I don't know, it's just way too much going on. And if you ever catch A&E's After Scientology with Leah Remini, then you'll understand why she exposed everything that she did about the Scientology. On the high seas, Scientologists were pretty much free to do what they wanted, and the floating religious retreat centers eventually became an essential part of their practice. So yeah, they claiming that that all the Scientologists were free to do whatever they wanted. No, they're not, because you are being controlled by these manipulators that want you to do things that you don't want to do, and that one is like, don't go near your family, don't do this, don't do that. You got to take orders from these people. I'm glad I only went far as I could before it got too deep for me, so I had to get out. In 1985, the church reportedly purchased the Finnish-built Freewinds, which once entertained tourists on the Commodore cruise line. The ship has since become its flagship, spiritually speaking, and its mission is pretty ambitious. The Freewinds is like no other place on Earth. It truly marks the beginning of a voyage to all internally, the church says. So what happens on the Freewinds? Well, now I know they say they believe in God, but they don't never talk about it because they just have you do commands of what you have to do, and that's it. And it's the Freewinds is like no other place on earth. So I mean, but I still would not go on that Freewinds because you never know how far you're going to go with it, because it's totally a cult. And my advice, please stay away from them, because it's not worth it. Go, if you want anything to do with God, go to a real church. This church is not a real church. It's a cult. That's all it is. Well, besides hosting a birthday party for a cruise during which he grabbed the mic for an energetic version of old time rock and roll. What happens is a lot of intensive religious study. A church website describes the shift as a safe, aesthetic, distraction free environment appropriate for ministration of this profoundly spiritual level of auditing. So if you don't know what auditing is, I think you're going to find it a little interesting by Googling it, because it will help you understand what it does to you. And I have done that. I have done the auditing before, and because I was pretty stressed out and everything else, but now that you got Tom Cruise in the middle of it, yeah, he's part of it along with John Travolta, and there's a whole bunch of other people too. But Leah Remini, she's not part of the church no more, so she's lucky she got out while she could. Auditing for Scientology is the practice by which an individual can rid himself or spiritual disabilities, holding a device called an e-meter, which functions as a kind of a lie detector. The auditor interrogates the auditee, looking for areas of spiritual distress. So that's all it is. You hold on to the device. It's a round metal device that you hold on to called the e-meter. So, and while they sit, while the auditors, they sit behind the, on a chair across from you, but they keep an eye on the meter reading thing to see what the auditors will interrogate you with, and whatever it is you tell them, they have to believe it. You can't, they don't want to hear the truth. All they want to hear is the lies. That's all it is. The church describes the Freewinds as a kind of moving Mount of Olives, the site of Jesus' ascension into heaven. It's the place where Scientologists can reach the highest level of spiritual attainment. OT8, which stands for Operating Thetan Level 8. What exactly that entails is the subject of some mystery and a little suspicion outside of Scientology, but the church describes it as the pinnacle of a deeply spiritual journey. So yeah, that's what they're trying to say that it is. It's a spiritual journey, but it's not. And the highest as you can go is OT8. The operating state in level 8. That's the highest they can get you to. But anywhere below that, you still gotta, people are still keeping themselves busy with what they know, and there's a lot of places that they just don't want you to be. And years of training and auditing have brought him to this ultimate point. It is the most significant spiritual accomplishment of his lifetime. It brings with it the full realization of his immortality, the church says. So yeah, it takes a lot of years of auditing. You have to keep practicing. Nah, I wouldn't want to go through all that, because it's just too much for anybody to handle. And they just want to catch you on some things that they don't want you to do. It's worth noting, though, that some former members have far less positive views of what goes on aboard the Freewinds. So yeah, so there's some former members that have less positive views on it, and about the Freewinds. In 2011, an Australian woman said she was taken aboard the ship for what she thought was a 2-week vacation, but it turned into a 12-year-long form of indentured servitude, the woman alleged. Yeah, so this woman in Australia, she said, oh, well, I'm going on this vacation for 2 weeks. No, it didn't turn out that way. And instead, she got caught into a 12-year-long form of indentured. And so this is what the Church of Scientology does to you. They manipulate you. They lie to you. They tell you, oh, we're going on a cruise for a couple. No, you're not going on a cruise for a couple of weeks. You're going to be on there forever. This week, actress Leah Remini, a former Scientologist who has become a fierce critic of the church, lodged similar charges about the Freewinds on Twitter. Responding to a Newsweek article about the ship, she said, "This is just the tip of the iceberg for what staff members of the Freewinds Scientology ships of horrors have to endure while serving people like Tom Cruise and David Miscavige, the church's current leaders." So yeah, like I said, so this is what Leah Remini had done. She was a former member of the church, and now she's not with them anymore. So she got out because she knew what was going on and how much abuse that she knew that was going on by David Miscavige, who is now the leader of the church. And also he's located down in I think either California or down in Clearwater, Florida, one of the two places, but I think more likely he's out in California. So, and this is why, and did respond to a Newsweek article about the ship. And she said that the ship, Scientology ship, is of horrors. So yeah, she could only imagine what is going on after she was with them for so long. Rimini also said that the apparent measles outbreak this week aboard the Freewinds poses a challenge to Scientologists' beliefs about their supernatural powers. Yeah, the only supernatural powers that they have is evil. That's all they got is evil. And Rimini even said that about the Freewinds poses a challenge to the Scientologists, and all these current Scientologists, they're in there for years and years and years, not seeing their family, not doing their jobs. They just want everybody. These Scientologists, they're not allowed to have their jobs. That because all these church does is want you to quit your job, and it's just outrageous what they're doing. The Scientology ship, the Freewinds, is where they reach one of the highest levels of Scientology and are supposed to be impervious to WOG illness. Remini wrote, "A WOG is a derogatory term used to describe all of you who are all just average humans compared to the superior Scientologists." So that's all it is. And that's exactly what she thinks of it. And Rimini is one heck of a strong woman to be out of that Scientology for good, because she doesn't want to go back there no more. And she used the derogatory of a WOG as a derogatory term used to describe all of you. So, and because all these people that are on there now, and plus in the Church of Scientology, they're not who you think they are. They may tell you one thing, but they behind the scenes they log into the computer and they put something else on there. So because they don't want nobody to know what it's really about. And with it being a cult, I was happy to find out after a while, after watching AME's series of about the Scientology that Liam Remini had done by exposing these people. I was glad to get out after a couple of years. But if you're, like I said, if you're thinking about going there, please do not go there at all, because it's too evil. They will make you do things you don't want to do, like give up your family, your job, and everything else. Leave your comments below. I am out.